the weather's bad. It's kind of touch and go.
Really? Okay. Hi. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday at 9. You know what happens? That's a little bit of a lie right now because it's not Tuesday at 9. Because it just our special guest today. So it's still going to have the live feel to it because you guys know I'm not editing this. Like it's the best I can do to like get it up and going and the lighting and whatever. So welcome to ReLive, where we talk about all the things. And today, whatever, we're going to talk to Holly. She is a nurse practitioner who I actually met. I don't know, it's probably been a couple of years ago. And she was so gracious to come on and kind of share with us her thoughts on functional medicine versus conventional medicine. And this is a topic that you guys are really interested in. And it's kind of intriguing to me. I'm just kind of starting to learn about it and like everything that goes into it. So kind of what we're going to talk about tonight is that's kind of our main theme, but it's such a robust topic that I think we can just talk about all kinds of things. So I've got some general questions that we have as guidelines, but we'll kind of see where tonight goes. And then if you guys, as you're watching this, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. And then I'm sure Holly and I will be looking at it and would be happy to help answer your questions. So without further ado, everyone meet Holly. She is a certified nurse practitioner, and she's been practicing for about 10 years. So she graduated from Purdue. And if you guys remember from my pilot episode, that's where I work is Purdue, and I work in the School of Nursing. So I know the program she went through, and y'all, it's good. So, and tough. So she's ready. Thank you, Holly, for joining me today for this special episode. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us and taking the time out of your day. I know that you're very passionate to help others live a healthier lifestyle. And that encompasses so many things. So why don't we kick off a little bit with what exactly is functional medicine and what is conventional medicine?
Good. Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome.
And joining me today.
Yeah.
So to start with, I mean, conventional medicine is more what people are familiar with. I would say the traditional, you go to the doctor and you get your physical or you get your annual lab work just to make sure you're doing okay, like a checkup. Or say you're having symptoms and you go into the doctor and you say, I'm having these headaches. I don't really know what's causing them. Can we try to figure out what's going on? And usually they'll ask you a series of questions around your symptoms. You know, when do they happen? How often do they occur? You know, what sort of other symptoms may you be having with them? So they can kind of categorize your symptoms into a diagnosis, right? And so from that diagnosis, then we have approved treatment modalities as well as prescriptions that would be used for a diagnosis as such. So typically it's going to involve maybe some lab work, some diagnostic testing, whether that be, some scanning or imaging to make sure there's no like brain tumors or anything like confounding, which usually that's not done first line, unfortunately. A lot of times people have to persist with their symptoms for quite a while before they'll be able to get like an MRI covered by insurance. It's so hard to get nowadays. But then you'd be given a prescription, right? And so we practice medicine a lot in that model. And it's not really looking at where the symptoms are coming from or why you're having them. And a lot of that, unfortunately, is limited by time. I mean, we just don't have a lot of time with patients when they come in. Like my appointments in dermatology are 10 minutes for a follow-up visit. A new patient, we get 20 minutes.
Wow.
And so that's really hard to try to find like where these symptoms are coming from in that short amount of time, which is frustrating for the clinician as well as the patient too.
Sure.
And so there is a different model or kind of an alternative way of looking at it where we really take more time with the patient, and that's more the functional side, where we look at and try to find where the functioning mishap is occurring. So we look at nutrition. I mean, that's a really big part of it. And so we're digging into their diet, their lifestyle, like how much stress are they under? How much sleep are they getting? We look at the person as a whole versus just their symptoms. And so we really analyze their full picture, what's going on, and even their history up until now, not just what's been recently going on. Because there's a lot of things that you go through in life that does kind of lead to you to where you
Sure.
are now with your symptoms. And so we can maybe talk more about those in detail further on as we conversate here. But really looking at, the gut health is really, really important for overall health. And so functional medicine is really going to look at those individual functions of the body and see where they're not functioning well, that may be creating those symptoms. And usually it's a combination of things. It's not just one thing. And so you have to really look at the full picture and not just like zeroing in on one system versus, broad kind of, you gotta get the 50-foot view too. From or bird's eye view.
Bird's eye view, aerial view, whatever, right?
From way back too.
Okay. So it's kind of like a piece of the pie versus the entire pie.
Right.
Okay. I'm curious to know if any of you have ever started diving into this functional medicine aspect, or if you are still doing the conventional. And I'm also curious to know, and I may be jumping ahead of the questions here, but that's just the way ReLive goes, is do you find it difficult to provide, because I know your passion is functional care, do you find it difficult to not want to overspend time with patients that come in and really dig deep into what's going on instead of just treating them for why they were there?
In my conventional
in your conventional practice, yes.
So yes, that is something I struggle with, and more so probably in the last year. I get behind very easily because people ask me about those sort of things, and it is something I'm passionate about. And so I try to take as little time as possible, but I try to at least dig into it a little bit just to see if they're interested. Some people aren't interested, and that's okay. But just to give them that knowledge that, yes, there are other things besides prescriptions that you can do. And I'm not putting prescriptions down because, like I said, not everyone wants to change their diet or is able to change their lifestyle right now, or they're just not motivated to make that happen. And so you have to meet the patient where they're at and also just give them the resources that they need or want at that time in their life.
Sure.
And so everyone's at a different place in their journey, and you just have to embrace that as a clinician. You can't like force that on them.
Right.
But yes, it is something I definitely struggle with. I want to give more education and time to that patient, but I'm just limited in the model that I'm in to deliver that sort of care.
Yeah, I would imagine. And when you talk about medicine, I'm learning more and more how food really should be viewed as a medicine. There's so much that food can do for us if we are eating the right stuff and not the processed chemical storm that it is. So that's probably here that we'll talk about a little more when we get to gut health. But I actually want to know kind of where did all this passion stem from, and do you have a personal story that goes along with that? And how long have you kind of been living this or working towards this goal of functional medicine?
So I probably started stumbling into like alternative health, I'll call it, not so much functional medicine, but alternative health in the last like 3 to 4 years. And so just kind of putting the piece together that what we eat and what we expose ourselves to has a lot to do with the product of our health right now. And so I just started doing a lot of research, and I listen to podcasts a lot. That's the source that I use for a lot of information. So started getting into the alternative health, and then kind of led down to the functional side of things. Amidst all of that, I started having some health issues myself. And so it turned into a personal research driven sort of motivation versus just general learning. I was still trying to teach those around me, and it was something I was incorporating into my practice, but the motivation changed a little bit when you or someone close to you starts to have some health issues. That's really where a lot of functional providers, or even if they're not a clinician, if they're just like a health blogger or something like that, it's usually because they or themselves, like someone close to them, like a child, a parent, grandparent, what have you, that they were closely related to that needed help. And so they really dug into the research to find the best way to try to help them. And so that's kind of what happened to me. So I started, I had some side businesses on top of my work in the dermatology office. And I was starting to kind of entertain the idea of homeschooling my kids. And so I just had a lot going on. We have a small family farm as well. And so I'm very active with my husband taking care of that. And so I just had a lot of plates I was juggling. And, I've always kind of been more of a type A personality, and I can get it done. Like I'm an achiever. That's my personality. And so I was trying to do all the things. And I found that doesn't work well to maintain good health. So as a lot of people do, I'm not the only person in that boat.
Right.
But I started having a lot of gut symptoms, and brain fog was a big issue for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've always struggled with acne since I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and working in dermatology, it's kind of frustrating because you're there to help people with their acne, and you are struggling with acne yourself, and it really makes them kind of question you know what you're doing. And so that's something I've always struggled with. And I did take Accutane, which is an oral medication.
Mm-hmm.
It's a more aggressive treatment for acne. But I took that for about 5 months, and my skin cleared up wonderfully.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 months later, it was back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I kind of like transitioned my lifestyle and started changing my diet around. And I did see progress. I saw major progress. But it just wasn't enough as my stress levels continued to rise, and I wasn't able to cope. I thought I was, but I wasn't. And that's when my other health symptoms really started unraveling. So sleep was a big problem for me. I wasn't able to sleep for very long, so my hormones were really suffering. When you're really stressed during the day, you're not going to be able to sleep and rejuvenate at night. And so that's something to kind of keep in mind just for the listeners out there, that if you're like a go all day long sort of person, you're not going to be able to sleep well at night. Your body has to have time to like rest and digest during the day too, to be able to rest well at night. And that's where all your rejuvenation and healing and recuperation takes place, is at night. If you're not getting good sleep, your health will fail. It's super important. So over the course of the last 2 years, that's where all of this kind of unfolded. And then from there, I did start kind of digging into the functional testing, because I was like, what is wrong? I kept trying all these things, different supplements, ways of eating, and I just wasn't really getting anywhere because I was trying so hard to force it. And I think that in itself became a stressor for me, because I was trying to be so controlling of everything and not being able to let go and relax and have fun and laugh and enjoy things. And so I started researching the testing, and I was like, oh, I kind of want to do this, but then I'm like, do I really need to? And kind of toying around with that idea for quite a while. But then I finally just bit the bullet, and I was like, I'm tired of being this grouchy mom that yells all the time and doesn't have fun with her kids, and her husband's all the time to her, And so I decided it was time to, invest in myself and figure out what I need to work on. And it was really funny because a lot of my labs came back not that terrible. I mean, my gut was not happy, and I knew that. I mean, that was something I didn't need the test to tell me, but it wasn't as bad as what I imagined it to be in my head. And so I worked through some of that stuff, and then I got another lab back. It's in detail nutrient panel. And so it was showing me that a lot of my stress markers were way high.
Okay.
So that was kind of the come to Jesus moment, where it's Holly, you've got to slow down and take care of yourself, because that was really, I think, where a lot of my issues were stemming from. It wasn't so much that I needed to narrow my diet down to this small group of foods that I could eat, and I have to take this whole cabinet full of supplements. It was that I just needed to stop and relax and enjoy life a little bit, know. And sometimes it's things like that that's simple, but at the same time, it took me as a clinician, the sciencey brain of mine, to really see the data. And then it registered with me. And so you just have to take each person as they are. Some people, you can just tell them straight out, listen, you are doing too much. But other people, you just have to, give them some hard facts and it sinks in. So, but yes, I'm doing much better. I still have setbacks. Life is not a box of chocolates, dozen roses, whatever you want to call it. But I know now that I need to listen to my body. And that's something I've learned. That's the biggest thing I've probably learned in all of this, is listening to those signals, because a lot of times we just brush it off and we don't even hear them. Our body's always trying to tell us things, whether we listen to them or not. And so it is really important that you take the time to listen and recognize what your body's trying to tell you. And that's what I've learned the most out of all of this, is just recognizing when I start to feel run down, when my mood starts slipping, when I'm not sleeping well. Those are my signals that I need to dial things back and do some more R&R.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that hard for you, as being a person that is go?
Yes.
I need to build in this relaxing time?
Yeah.
But does that add any extra stress to you? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
It does, but the other thing too is I figured out that I can't do it all myself, and
Right.
I have to get help. I have to delegate, and sometimes I just have to let certain things go. Like you have to prioritize and figure out what is really important and what's gonna, slide away for this time of life. So, I've always struggled with, I want my house like tidy and clean and picked up and organized, and that makes me feel good. And when it's not that way, I do feel like I can't breathe sometimes. So I've just lowered my acceptable level. And I've also hired some help, to come in and do some cleaning and just little things that I'm okay with letting go of. And then also just doing little things like Instacart, like someone bringing my groceries to me. Amazing. Just like those little tasks that just, for me, grocery shopping was such a mountable task to get achieved. And it was in my mind mentally, because we live 30 minutes from the grocery store in one way. And so it was just this whole deal to make the list, to then drive to town, get the kids in there, shop and not buy everything in the store, get it home, put it away. And then by that time you're wore out, the day's done. You can't do anything else. And so just finding those tools that you can invest in and that will save you so much brain space and just exhaustion in the end is totally worth it. And so, asking for help, hiring help, whatever you need to do, let go of things and keep your house decluttered. That makes a huge difference too. So
yes, for sure. And I would say too, to those that are watching, maybe you can't afford to hire help, but you can always find a friend that you're willing to trade off. Maybe you love to go to the grocery store. Maybe that's the thing that they don't love to do. Trade off, and maybe they'll come vacuum or clean your toilet or something. I don't know. Just kind of thinking outside of the box there a little bit. You mentioned some signals that you noticed for yourself, like the sleep and your mood. And can you think of some other common signals that people might recognize?
Yeah. So a lot of times people will experience skin issues. So that was with my acne, that when my gut is not in good shape, it comes out in my acne. For other people, they get eczema or psoriasis or other rashes. They just don't really know where they're coming from. Those sort of things can be very stress driven, or just the fact that your body's taking on too much burden, just overall, whether that be from diet or not enough sleep, too much stress, those sort of things. Nutritional deficiencies, toxin overload, those sort of things can all manifest in different ways. But just feeling more joint pain, just inflammation in general, you just feel achy or headaches. Just feeling fatigue throughout the day, not really feeling energized, especially when you wake up in the morning. If you've slept all night, you wake up and you're still tired or groggy. Those are sort of things to watch for. Mood for sure. Sleep quality. So it's not so much that, hey, I do get 8 hours of sleep, but if you're waking up every 2 hours, that's not good quality sleep.
Right.
And so really analyzing those markers. And there's all sorts of tools that you can use to really dig into that data if you're that sort of person. But just do you feel rested when you wake up in the morning? That was something I struggled with for quite a while. When I wasn't sleeping well, I was so tired I couldn't really get out of bed. And just feeling like I got it in my back a lot. Other people get it in their knees or, their hands, wherever their inflammation is going to settle. It's going to look different for every person. But yeah, just brain fog is another one I think a lot of people experience, along with the mood thing. It's definitely heavily tied to, but it could be so many different symptoms.
Sure.
I mean, but those are just kind of a common list of ones that people might experience.
I think something that stuck with me the last appointment, I see Holly as a clinician. I'm allowed to say that, right?
You can.
I can. Yeah. I see Holly as a clinician. And one thing that you said to me that really stuck with me is that your body is think of it as it's got these buckets. And when those buckets, because of all of the different things we're taking in, start overflowing, it comes out to your skin. And I think that really resonated with me. I was like, wow. And so that's a good segue into one of these questions is, what about all the stuff we're putting on our body, putting in our body, the air we breathe? The list just goes on and on, organic or not organic. And
yes,
I don't know. What are your thoughts there with?
So yes, it's definitely what I call a toxic burden for your body. And women especially, I think, have more of this issue than men. Men do. It's just women use so many chemicals in their personal care products. I think the average statistic is that we expose ourselves to 150 chemicals before we even leave the house in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
Between our, shower products
Mhm.
and, to do our hair, our makeup, our body lotions and perfumes and everything that we put on, our laundry detergent, our clothes, the dyes in our clothes. There's so much chemical exposure nowadays that, we didn't used to have years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so that all has to be, it's all absorbed, whether we breathe it in through our air or it's absorbed through our skin.
Mm-hmm.
And your liver has to detoxify all of those chemicals. And it just becomes this overburdened system, and it's one more big stressor on your body. And so I've, over these last several years, have really worked on, cleaning up my just home cleaning products.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't use, I used to use like a toilet bowl cleaner and things like that. And I switched everything over. I use a lot of Norwex products.
Mm-hmm.
So like their EnviroCloth for, cleaning surfaces. I don't use any sort of chemical to spray, but you could make your own with like vinegar and water. Right. Some lemon oil, essential oils. I use those a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So just finding something that you can, sometimes it's a letting go too, like people are so hung up on that smell of clean and what their mind thinks is clean. But really clean has no smell.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a getting used to and slow transition for some people. But also just looking at your actual air quality in your home. So if you think about it, carpet, the backing there's a lot of fireproofing and formaldehyde to keep things from growing in there. And our furniture, they treat it a lot of times with formaldehyde or formaldehyde type agents to keep it from molding and growing things on it that's not supposed to. And formaldehyde, we know, is a known carcinogen, and they're labeling it now because of California's laws. They're putting stickers on everything that say, this contains whatever chemical is known to cause cancer. Carcinogenic is the word they'll use. Even like your mattress is probably the most toxic thing in your house. I'm not kidding.
And you want us to get in it and get good sleep.
Yeah, and that's where you spend a third of your life. So the flame retardants, like your mattress has to be, I'm researching this right now. So in the midst of it, I'm like, it's all fresh. But your flame retardant your mattress has to be flame retardant to a blowtorch. Like it can't catch on fire with a blowtorch. So they have to treat it with a ton of chemicals. And they also add more chemicals so that it helps cut down on the mold and mildew thing, because you have a lot of desquamation or skin cells and mites and bugs and everything that live in your mattress. I mean, most people know that your mattress doubles its weight in like 10 years or what have you. So, your mattress is a really big source. Carpets, vinyl flooring, a lot of building materials, paints, a lot of the low VOC paint is a big thing now. But there's a lot of other VOCs in the house that are just like, again, the air in your house is probably the most toxic air you can breathe. So you really should try to open your windows a couple days a week and try to get fresh air. I mean, I have this fancy air freshener thingy. I don't know. It's an air purifier. It's not a freshener.
Okay.
Air purifier that's going to basically circulate all the air and pull out all the crap and catch it in this fancy filter. So, investing in a good quality air purifier for your home, not just the one that goes in your air system for your air conditioner, furnace, that sort of thing. So, it's a huge, air fresheners in the wall. I don't use those anymore.
Right.
And I don't diffuse essential oils just to diffuse them. Like I have a purpose when I use them, whether it be for my mood issues that I'm having a day or for struggling with, an illness or something in the house, then I'll use it intentionally, but I don't just diffuse stuff to diffuse it, because again, it's something else your body has to process. And if it's not a need right now, it's just one more thing you're exposing yourself to that your body doesn't really need at this time.
Wow. And I was talking about the wall things, like I just bought a bunch of them and against like better judgment. Like I knew that this is putting stuff off that I probably shouldn't be smelling. And somebody else mentioned like candles are another one of the worst things that you can do. And you think about it, like the rim of my candle is all black. I'm like, oh, I wonder what my lungs look like. Then. So the mattress is really like stuck in my head right now. Obviously, we want to sleep on a nice, comfy mattress. Yeah. Is there anything in your research that you found that we can put on that to help protect us?
Yeah, I mean, there's different like liners or sleeves that you can put over your mattress. something that's going to seal it out is probably, I mean, from what I've been reading, I haven't dug into the whole sleeve thing yet, but there are some more like safe plastic covers that you can use. I'm not sure how excited I'd be about that just for the noise factor.
Yeah.
But there are options there. There are mattresses that are made without all of those chemicals. They use more natural compounds that aren't as toxic to your body. And so in one particular brand that I was looking at, it's called IntelliBed, and it uses a gel that's similar to like what they use in the hospital to prevent pressure ulcers and just from like patients that are more bedridden for a longer period of time. And so there are organic mattresses. They're pricey, but they aren't made with those chemicals as well. The problem with those is they usually don't have as much support long term, and so you spend a lot of money on a product that's not going to give you a lot of last, especially if you struggle with like back pain or anything like that, or you need extra support. And so I'm still like researching. We need a new mattress, so I'm not looking forward to buying that one, but it is something that I have to get figured out here in the near future. So
and then it's the kids will need the mattresses, and it just kind of like rolls downhill, right? I know my husband loves it when I like start researching stuff and like, oh my gosh, we gotta do this, and he's like, seriously, trying to get him on board sometimes. If you're watching, honey, I love you.
But if you have an infant or a small one that's still in a crib, I would definitely prioritize that mattress over anyone else in the home. Especially if you have a new one that you're bringing home. There's a possible link there with SIDS. And so of all the chemicals that they're breathing in from those mattresses. So it's not proven, but it's something to think about, and if you have the option to upgrade, that's one I would recommend.
Definitely. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our gut, because everything stems from the gut, from what I'm learning. I was surprised to know it's been, I lose track of time. It's brain fog, I think. 3 years, maybe. I was for so long, having skin issues on my hand where it would just be raw. And that's when I first met Holly and was like, I don't know what to do. I had been to, before Holly, probably 2 other dermatologists. I had gotten steroid shots. I had gotten all kinds of like creams and ointments and wear gloves at night and all of this stuff with no relief whatsoever. And then one day, a good friend of mine said, you might want to check to see if you have like gluten sensitivity. And I was like, really? Like at this time I was like 36, 35 years old. I'm like, I've never had an issue with it before. I'm not having any stomach issues. And like when people talk about gluten, when I tell them I can't have gluten, they're like, oh, do you have like digestion issues? And I'm always like, no, my skin just peels off.
Yeah.
So I went and I got this gluten test. It came back and like, what was it? A 2 or lower meant that you were like fine and didn't have a sensitivity to it. Mine came back as 7.2 with an H next to it, meaning that I had a high sensitivity to it. So that moment that I found out I went off of gluten, and you guys, within 3 days, I saw a huge change. And now today my hands are pretty good. I've got one that Holly asked me as soon as I came here if I was extra stressed because it's kind of peeling a little bit, but nothing like it was. Like it's not bad. So let's talk a little bit about that and how maybe we can improve that area, or what are some resources that you could point us to.
So the gut is heavily tied. I mean, everything kind of pivots off the gut. Your hormones, your brain function, inflammation in general kind of starts there. Your bacteria balance for your body. I mean, there's a bacteria population on your skin. There's some in your mouth, in your digestive tract, in your lungs. Everywhere in your body has its own bacteria balance. And when that gets out of balance, that's when problems happen. And the gut is a very pivotal point for that. And so with all the antibiotics that we use nowadays for everything under the sun, and here, just in case, here's an antibiotic sort of approach to treating things has really gotten us into trouble over time, as well as the hand sanitizers, the antibacterial soaps. We're just like killing everything. And there is a purpose for the bugs that are there to kind of serve as your baseline or your fighters to protect you from invaders or the ones that you don't want there. And so when you kill off all of those good ones, the opportunistic or the bad ones have an opportunity to overgrow and take over and cause issues. And so, inflammation can definitely start there, and it can actually lead to what's called leaky gut, which is kind of a term that talks about the permeability of your gut lining. So meaning you're absorbing things through your gut that aren't supposed to be coming through. And so it's like a leaky roof, basically. So the concept is, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And when things are out of whack there, that's where I think a lot of autoimmunity stems from. And just overall these weird symptoms that aren't really tied to anything in specific, but you're tired all the time, you're irritable, there's a lot of serotonin in your gut, which is that, feel good hormone that is usually off when you have a lot of depression or anxiety issues. And, it's also your biggest detoxification organ. So a lot of people don't poop every day, right? That's super important to be ridding those toxins out of your body. And if you're not, you're just reabsorbing those back into your body. And so, regular bowel movements is really, really important to try to help, evacuate those toxins out.
Didn't know we were going to talk about poop, did ya?
It's important.
So daily, what about more than once a day?
More than once a day is definitely optimal. I mean, you don't want to be having so loose of stools that you're losing electrolytes and nutrition because of it. But, if you're going after every meal, then that's perfect. I mean, totally ideal, as long as it's not, like I said, loose over evacuation. I like that word. And so really you have to look at, what systems are being affected, but usually you can trace that back to the gut in some shape or form. And you, like you said, you may not be having gut symptoms that you're experiencing that you think there's anything wrong with your gut per se.
Right.
But usually through more detailed analysis, you can figure out that, yes, there is an imbalance issue going on. You're just not having symptoms in that department. But yeah, that's definitely something that's really important to look at. It's not that everything starts there. I mean, there's a lot of things like stress will have a huge effect on your gut balance of bacteria and the inflammation overall in your body. And so there are external factors too, but it really starts to affect that area first. And then that's where the teeter-totter gets tipped.
Right.
So
what's your thought on gluten? Because I've heard so many stories of, obviously all the gut things, but then I think I heard like somebody took their child off of gluten and saw a major change in their attitude and their behavior, their ability to focus in school. Like, do you think, just from a personal opinion, like gluten has no part in our diet?
Well, I think that a large majority of people probably would do better without it, or at least reduce to a minimal amount versus daily or every meal, like some people do. I used to be one of those people, so I'm not criticizing anyone, but that was my diet, was a lot of grains, in general. So a lot of people, sometimes it's a fact of gluten in itself is heavily altered. It's that grain in itself has been changed a lot. It's treated with a lot of chemicals. It's fortified with a lot of fake vitamins. So they add a lot of stuff to it. It's not the way it used to be. We used to soak and ferment our grains, and so they were easier to digest, less phytic acid, which phytic acid is, it comes in nuts and grains. But when you soak them, it helps to pull out a lot of the phytic acid, and we don't do that anymore. And so the phytic acid is a binding agent, so it binds to a lot of nutrients in your gut, and it actually acts as like a magnet to pull out, so you can't actually absorb those nutrients. And so like if you eat a lot of nut butters or almonds, those sort of things, that can actually start to cause issues with nutritional deficiencies, because you're basically not able to absorb a lot of the nutrients you are eating from good foods, because all that phytic acid is a binding agent in your gut.
Okay.
And so when you eat a lot of that, it's an irritant in your gut. And so that can create the leaky gut situation, which can also create more inflammation, more immunity, kind of an autoimmunity sort of thing. And that can create brain changes, that can create hormone changes, skin changes. It's just like this domino, this domino effect. And so not everyone is going to have the same sort of symptom resolve when they pull the gluten out. Some people may not notice a lot when they pull it out, but when they put it back in is when they'll notice those little symptoms come back. And so for me, that's the big issue is I didn't notice a big difference when I took it out, but when I put it back in, I'm bloated, I'm more irritable. I'm like, mine's more GI related.
Okay.
But I'm very sensitive right now too to like my blood sugar. And so some people will have a major blood sugar reaction with it, where their blood sugar shoots way up, insulin response comes, and then they dip down and their blood sugar crashes, about 2 hours later, and then they're moody because their blood sugar is tanked. The hangry commercials, the Snickers commercials, which are so like, they don't make sense because they're just going to do the same thing again. But it's a good business model. They sell more Snickers that way. So those sort of things are all things to think about. I see a lot of issues in the clinic with too much insulin. That's a lot of the skin issues that I see is way too much insulin. And so yeah, that's something else to think about is, a banana may spike your blood sugar more than a cookie would spike my blood sugar.
Okay.
And so it's very individual, and really like we all should be tracking our blood sugar. Like in a perfect world, I know no one's not going to do this, but wearing, a continuous blood sugar monitor like diabetics do is actually really helpful to like get you to see and understand like how foods affect you and your blood sugar. It would make a huge difference. I'm actually looking into doing it myself just for a short period of time, but just to really see like, does fruits affect me as much as just refined sugars?
Right.
Or, like breads or pastas, gluten, whatever gluten containing product you're eating. What sort of blood sugar response do you get from that? Because if you constantly have insulin spikes going on, that's going to promote more inflammation. It affects your hormones, females especially, I mean males too, but women, it totally like messes up your estrogen progesterone balance. It causes a lot of, gut disturbances all around and just more inflammation in your body. So
do you want your insulin to remain kind of level, or do you want to kind of ebb and flow, or how does that work?
Ideally, it would be not so much a straight line, but these big spikes is the problem.
Okay.
And the constant spitting of insulin is the issue. And that's where insulin resistance comes from. And then diabetes is down the road from that.
Right.
And so now if you're talking type 2 diabetes, which is the more common that we're seeing nowadays, type 1 is where your pancreas actually is not able to produce enough or any insulin at all, and they're actually saying that's probably more of an autoimmune disease than anything, where your body actually attacks your pancreas and it's not able to produce insulin anymore. But yes, if you can keep those, the more steady you can keep that, the better your health overall is going to be. Yeah.
Right. I just watched a TED Talk, Dr. Is it Sarah Halbert, about how the treatment for diabetes is really causing some of the problem, and it's really just the food, like fix your diet. If somebody was wanting to pull gluten out of their diet and then put it back in, just to see kind of what's the recommended time to pull it out, for how long?
I mean, that can vary from person to person, and it just depends on like how sensitive you are to it. Usually I recommend give it 3 weeks. I mean, that's usually a decent amount of time to give you an idea of what it's going to feel like when you reintroduce it. 2 days probably isn't going to make a huge difference if you've been eating it quite often. Now, if someone's not eating it very much at all and they take it out for 2 weeks and then they reintroduce it, they'll probably see a difference. But for someone like yourself, if you were eating it more often and you noticed right away within 3 days because you were really sensitive. Other people, it may take them a longer period of time to really see that. And like I said, they may not even notice until they reintroduce it.
Right.
To really notice like that flare-up symptom. So
that would be a good place to start for people if they were like wanting to kind of look at their gut health.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. You've given us so much great information. Let's see. All right. Another question that I have on here is if somebody was wanting to start kind of digging into this functional health way of things instead of conventional, how do they start? What do they do?
So it depends on what area they're in. So for myself, I work as a functional medicine consultant on the side. I work virtually with patients. So I just use Zoom platform, which is a video like Skype. Most people are familiar with Skype. And I do consultations through Zoom and email, communication back and forth, or we'll get on the phone if someone's not able to do the Zoom platform. But so there's there's not a lot like I know most of you're from West Lafayette. I don't know where all your listeners and stuff are, but in the West Lafayette area, there's not a ton of like functional medicine providers. There's different alternative health providers, and I know there are a few, and most of them are going to be more of a cash pay option because the medical model just isn't there yet as far as billing to insurance. I mean, there are some things that you can get covered, but most of it is not. And so that's the limiting factor for a lot of people is just the financial side of things. But if you find a good clinician that can really help connect you with the right tests and look at your overall picture and try to minimize spending as much as possible, then, you know, that person can be served better in that way. Because like I said, it's not always just like one thing. And so it's usually a combination of things that, you know, looking at the big picture. But I do consulting virtually with clients, and it's more of a one-on-one situation. I've thrown around the option of doing some group work too. But the testing and reviewing of all that obviously would be more of a one-on-one approach. So depending on which area, and I mean, you could start with Google and do a search and see if you find any providers in your area. But yeah, otherwise, there's not a lot in the Lafayette area that I'm aware of. I know Indy has quite a few.
Sure.
There's a naturopathic doctor in West Lafayette that I've gone to a couple of times myself. I don't know how much actual functional testing she does though.
Okay. So would you Google functional doctor, functional medicine doctor? What I wouldn't even know where to begin.
You'd start with functional medicine. If that doesn't lead you to anything, then like maybe an alternative health, or sometimes different chiropractors will do. And you're just going to have to kind of individually research the chiropractor because some of them are more just snap, crackle, pop, and that's it. And then others will do more in-depth testing or, you know, acupuncture. A lot of times will go on with the chiropractor practice.
So Holly did mention she does have a consulting business on the side. And so the night that we put this out there for you guys to watch, I'll put the link if you want to give me the link. Do you have a website?
Yeah.
We'll put the link to her website. So if you guys are interested in that, I think this would be a really great starting point for you to look into. And I mean, maybe it is the answer for you. Yeah, starting and ending point right there. Yeah. You can take care of all of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a little bit like the financial burden because our health model really isn't there yet. Do you see society kind of moving towards this, and maybe in the future we are going to have more insurance options for functional medicine? What are your thoughts there?
I don't really know 100%, honestly. I think my view, and I could totally be wrong, this is just my opinion, but to me, I see the system totally collapsing first, honestly. Okay. I hate to be like negative Nancy here, but I just think there's going to have to be a breaking point somewhere. And I don't know when exactly that's going to happen. But I definitely think people are becoming smarter and more aware that our diet does play a role in our health, and you know, the products that we're using and exposed to all the time. You know, organic has really kind of taken root and more available now as far as the foods and things like that, at least in our area. And we're pretty rural here where I'm at. And so it is starting to become more talked about. And I just don't know how the insurance model is going to get restructured. I mean, there's a lot of things on the political side with the government. Medicare kind of runs the show, and then commercial insurance follows suit. And so Medicare is definitely upping their game on what they're requiring providers to give quality care at a lower level price. But it's still a fee for service sort of model where you get paid on the number of patients that you see. But it is transitioning in the markers that they're looking for as far as your outcomes with care. And so I think it's starting to move. It's just not going yet where we need it to go. And the unfortunate part is all of my training that I get on the conventional side is sponsored by a drug company. And so you have that side of things too, where the pharmaceuticals, if they're not going to make money on something, it's not going to get talked about. And so if it can't be patented or, you know, made into something that they can market, it's probably not, it's not going to make it down to us.
Unfortunate.
And so there's this great divide between the two systems. I mean, I try to incorporate both sides of the fence because I think there are people that would benefit from certain pharmaceuticals, at least for a period of time. with their goal being to get off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But other people just don't want anything to do with it. Just give me the pill and I'm going to go on my way.
Right.
So, and that's fine. It's just my focus has really become empowerment, awareness, like letting people know that there are other options if you're interested in pursuing those. And so, I want to have people to have choices.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think too, as the younger generation start coming up, because I really feel like we've seen, organic is becoming more available, easily available. What am I trying to say? Like, as that generation comes up and the older generation starts to retire, I think that's probably when we're going to see a major shift. And not just in the medical world, but also like maybe in politics and all of those different areas where, you know better, you do better type of mentality. So that'll be interesting to see if it happens in our lifetime.
Yeah, I hope so, because I see a lot of kids at the derm office and they are sick. Their health is not looking good at such a young age. And I try to, tell parents, like, listen, just because they're 9 or 10 or 12 or 15, whatever, doesn't guarantee health. Where when we were kids, it was just not something that was ever talked about. Right. But kids nowadays are not expected to outlive their parents.
Are you serious?
Yeah, totally. So if
like, you mean like we'll bury our children, or they'll just die at a younger age than we died?
They will not outlive their parents. Yeah.
Wow, you guys, if that doesn't spur you anyway, that's crazy. And I also think that society we have gotten so busy. And you mentioned this earlier, like, you have to force yourself to slow down. Like, kids are in travel sports, they're in this dance competition, they're doing this, and both parents are working. And so it is that, let me grab the hamburger helper and make it, or in our house, like, Liam's favorite thing is a Lunchable. Well, there's nothing good in there, So I think that plays a big part in it. I really wish that we could slow down a little bit. I wish that it was more feasible to have a one income household, all of those things. But because society has just gotten this way, both parents have to work. I have a lot of friends that do only one parent works, and honestly, I don't know how that happened. Like, how does that happen? How do I don't know. And kudos to you if you are one of those households. I'm very envious, but I just feel like if we could get back to the basics, more family time, slowing down, having home cooked meals, raising our own garden, I feel like we would see such an improvement. Right. And that scares me to think that my child is not expected to outlive me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. For adults in particular, 1 in 3 are diabetic or have prediabetes. And so, diabetes is such a life-altering diagnosis, but it doesn't just show up. You have prediabetes usually for at least 5 years before diabetes actually manifests. And, that's all I see all day long. I take skin tags off left and right. Skin tags are a sign of insulin resistance. So
did you hear that clinician come out and
oh my gosh. But yeah, it's just, I just want people to know, sometimes you just have to, just get your face smacked around a little bit to understand. And there's so many different signs of too much insulin on your body. Like, if you're constantly fighting athlete's foot or fungus or yeast anywhere on the body, that is too much insulin, too much sugar in your diet. If you have, for females in particular, if you have a lot of body hair, excessive body hair, that is a hormonal imbalance driven by too much insulin. So skin tags, I mentioned that, or some people have a thick velvety darkening around their back of their neck or their armpit area. Any skin fold, that's called acanthosis nigricans, which is, again, too much insulin. It's a sign of prediabetes. And I see this in kids all the time. It's definitely something that we have to wake up and realize that our diet is killing us. I mean, that's not the only piece of it, but you know, our convenience foods, like you're telling, you know, the on the go lifestyle,
right,
is not going to sustain us and keep health at the same time.
And then let's not even get into all the screen time that we have these days. You know, that is a whole nother thing. But I just feel like, our grandparents probably were more healthy than we are right now.
Yeah. Getting outside is really good for your health. Even standing on the ground barefooted, it's called grounding. It helps to kind of cancel out some of that electronic, you know, exposure, like the Wi-Fi. That's a whole nother aspect of things that is another stressor toxin to our body is EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies, which comes from Wi-Fi and our cell phone, the radiation from that, and you know, all the big electronics like in your house, like a TV, refrigerator, microwaves, those sort of things. Those are all emitting things, again, in our house that we're around every day. Sometimes people, you know, a lot of people sleep with their phone right next to the head of their bed, which is radiating your brain all night long while you sleep.
That's exactly where my phone is.
Yes.
Where it's not
Some
going to be
people
tonight.
even put it under the pillow.
Okay.
So my recommendation would be to get that out of your room. If you use it as your alarm, try to put it in a nearby room and put it on airplane mode, so it's not getting any cell phone service. If that's still not an option, maybe just at least 5 feet away from your head, because it drops the amount of radiation exposure by like 90%, at least 5 feet away. So just like put it across the room at least, if you have to have it in your room. But also, like, I turn my Wi-Fi off every night. I have a little timer like you use for your Christmas lights, and I have it shut down at 10, and it doesn't come back on until 6 the next morning. And so I don't have that constant, especially if your Wi-Fi router is right next to your bedroom or right above or below, depending on how your house is set up, or your kids' bedrooms. Like, that is a strong source of radiation. So have that thing shut down or just unplug it, whatever you can. I mean, if that's something you're willing to do, but just shutting it off through the night can reduce your exposure major. But when you think about it, you're at home, your Wi-Fi's on all the time. You go to work, you're in a Wi-Fi pit. Like, that's all you get all day long.
So what does too much radiation do for, like, what are some symptoms? Like headaches, brain fog?
Again, it's going to be
different for
every person. But yeah, it may just be you're not sleeping well. You know, that can affect your sleep quality. And you won't restore and heal like you're supposed to at night when you're sleeping. So that will over time have a slow decline in your health. But even like your smart meters for the electric companies, those have a ton of EMF exposure on them. And so if those are like right outside your bedroom, you're getting radiated all night long from that. And so like ours is clear out at the road, thankfully. But a lot of people, theirs is right on their house, you know, and that may be right in the bedroom of your kid or yourself. So those are all just things to think about. And I know you can't totally avoid all exposure, but if there's little things you can do to try to help minimize it, like moving your cell phone away from the head of your bed, turning your Wi-Fi off, those sort of things can make a huge difference.
Right. Okay. So. Well, I would challenge all of you that are watching this to, if you sleep like me, I'm guilty, with my phone right next to my bed because I do use it as my alarm clock. But I have an alarm clock in my room. So I would challenge all of you to move that. I'm moving mine tonight. And when I say tonight, I mean like the Tuesday that we are filming this. I'm moving mine tonight and challenge you to see if you notice a difference in your sleep quality.
Not everyone's going to be real sensitive to it, but some people may notice a huge difference. I mean, I was listening to a podcast once about a lady that was having Hashimoto's thyroiditis, so it was an autoimmune condition with her thyroid, and she really made an effort to reduce the EMFs in her home, and her Hashimoto's went away. Like it self-resolved. So she was really sensitive to those sort of things, and everyone is going to be different on how they respond to that sort of thing. But I definitely notice I'm more anxious and irritable the more screen time or like indoor time that I have. I go outside and I take a walk. I feel so much better. And so just try to like get outside for at least 10, 15 minutes every day can make a huge difference.
Right.
So,
wow. I think we've covered all of the questions that I had as our kind of talking points. This has been really helpful. I really appreciate it. My head is spinning right now thinking like, I need to do this, that, and the other. And I'm kind of an all or nothing person. So like, I'm going to want to implement it all right now, but I know that I need to do it in baby steps.
Yeah.
I guess before we go, what is like, if you could have everyone like implement one thing, if that was the only one thing that they were going to do, what do you think would be the most impactful?
I would probably have to choose like dial in your sleep. Like that is probably the most important thing.
Okay.
If your diet is on point and you exercise, you take care of yourself and every other aspect of your life, and you aren't sleeping well, that will crash your health faster than anything else. And so sleep is probably the number one most important thing. And that's what I kind of get super geeked out about a lot of times is my sleep quality, because I didn't have it. I mean, I slept really well for a majority of my life until I didn't. And I really suffered those consequences from that. And so I really made a purpose to make my room as like conducive to sleep, in my house, I should say, conducive to sleep as much as possible. So that's my big thing. Can
you give some down and dirty tips on how to do that? How to improve your...
Yeah. So the EMF thing that I was talking about, turning the Wi-Fi off, get your phone away from your head, and then also make sure it's a really dark room. So light has a lot of effect on your sleep quality. And so when you're exposed to bright lights like your TV, your screens, just the bright lights in your house, if you leave the lights up till late in the evening before you go to bed, that is telling your body that it's wake time. It's not time to go to sleep. And so it suppresses your melatonin production, which melatonin is that relaxation sleep hormone. And so if you can either do, dim the lighting if that's possible. Try not to watch TV like an hour before bed, or you can install, like if you have to be on your computer or any sort of electronic device, most of the Apple phones, you can do like nighttime mode. I don't know what they call it, but it turns the screen more yellowy or orange color. I have blue light blocking glasses, which are like an amber. The lenses are really orange. And so that just kind of protects from the blue light exposure. And then I, of course, like pull the blinds and the curtains in my room to make it really dark. I sleep with a sleep mask on.
Oh, nice.
And then the sounds, like that can make a huge difference too. So if I do well with white noise. So I have my air purifier running on a low setting when I'm sleeping. Other people don't do well with noise. So just like seeing what is best for your body on that aspect. And then temperature, like that's really, really important. Your body's going to sleep in that deep sleep mode the best if you are cooled.
Yes.
And so I recently invested in a mattress pad that goes underneath my bed sheets, and it actually has cool water, and I can control the settings. It's amazing to like lower the temperature as I get into my more deep sleep phase of sleep. It really lowers the temperature down, and it stays there until I start waking up, and then the temperature comes back up in the morning. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's okay. Awesome.
So we might put that link to purchase that and any other thing that she thinks might be helpful. We'll put links there for you guys. All right. This has been about an hour of your time. Is there anything else that you just want to leave viewers with or feel like we need to say, or are you complete? Do you feel complete?
Just as like a recap, really just focusing on those bite-sized pieces that you can take on right now. Don't feel overwhelmed. Just start with something that's easy and just work your way up from there. If you're someone that's really struggling with a chronic health illness or, just searching for answers, like you kind of ran around to different dermatologists trying to figure out what to do with your hands. I mean, my biggest recommendation is don't give up on yourself. There are answers out there. There are people that can help you. You just have to find that person or that clinician to figure out what you need. And so, that was one thing myself. I was determined I was going to fix what I had going on. I wasn't going to give in to taking a bunch of prescriptions that weren't going to help me. And again, there's no shame to anybody that wants to go that route. It's just, for me, I had different plans. So yeah, just start with where you can start. If you need help, reach out for it, that sort of thing. And share this with anyone that you think would gain value from that.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, guys. All right. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for spending about an hour with us. tonight. I honestly don't know what is on after this episode, so we're going to both be surprised for the week after this. Trying to think if I can remember, but I honestly, I do remember. I think I'm having, where you have people come stay with you, students. What's that called?
Oh, exchange students?
Yes, I think we're talking exchange students next week. I'm not 100% sure. A lot can happen between now and then, guys. All right. Thank you so much. And we'll drop those links so you guys have some information, and feel free to reach out to Holly if you have any questions. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.